Okay, instead of continuing with the last line of thought, I'm going to put that information on another addendum, basically, which is going to concern torsion physics, which is a very interesting study, which I had mentioned briefly was invented by the or reinvented. Actually, it was originally conceived in the times of the pyramid, the Great Pyramid, when it was built, because it allowed for levitation. So I am going to include that later in another clip. But I'd like to continue with the following, basically the paranormal. And the reason I'm doing this more than anything is to relieve a lot of people of the idea, the completely erroneous idea of death, and this will help if it's given any kind of credence. It will help in people processing this idea, which could perhaps loom large in the coming years. Okay, so I will start with not myself, who I have a certain amount of precognitive ability in terms of psychism, but our son Raman really displayed an extraordinary degree of this, especially when he was younger. He's starting to lose it now because of, and this happens with everyone actually, as you develop in life, you're basically born fully psychic, and however, you're not capable of communicating that, and as you grow, you start losing it quite rapidly. Usually the onset of language is the first major stroke against that capacity. It gets shut down fairly quickly. Around the second and third years, the child starts rapidly shutting that down, because when it's mixed with this relative world, it doesn't go together that well unless you have knowledge about the nature of it. And so it's like two different worlds in this world, because it's still, as I mentioned, the paranormal is still very much a part of this dimension. It is not metaphysics, which has wrongly been associated with it by many people in recent times, especially especially the New Age people. They consider that to be part of metaphysics. It is not at all, and to confuse the two is not wise, because well, that's another story. I'll get into that when I get into the metaphysical talk. Now, when Ram was about 2.5 years old, and he has one of his nannies, which they call a yaya here in the Philippines, when she was with him at first, he was about that age, and so she actually saw this happen, this particular event that I'm about to describe. Her and another boy that she was working with, he was about 17 or 18 years old at the time as well. They saw Raman do this, and what it was is he was, like I said, about 2.5 years old, and he actually scribed on a wall on three different occasions a series of 3 numbers, and he knew nothing about writing whatsoever, neither in numbers or letters, and so his hand was guided by this individual. He later said that basically whispers these numbers to him. Usually he gives them audibly, but on these 3 occasions he actually wrote them out. And when they saw this, the people here in the Philippines, I should say, are exposed to this kind of thing a lot more than people in the West, and they just take it in stride. It's nothing out of the ordinary, really, for them. Almost every single individual will have stories to tell you about magical events that we in the West would consider impossible. And there are numerous stories, and my wife and I as well also, we have encountered many fantastic events here. On the third occasion, they actually bet money on the numbers he scrawled, and they won. I don't know, it was about $100 equivalent US. Well, anyway, he gave a series of, altogether, from that point until he was about almost, I guess, around 5 years old. He's about almost 7 years old now. He was giving these numbers freely, and there was about maybe 24 occasions where he did. And every time he did, they came out every single time, either in the next drawing or the drawing after that. And that was a bit of a problem because people weren't sure which drawing to bet on. Well, anyway, there were a few occasions where he did not give the correct number. And oddly enough, each of those occasions, the number, the three numbers were off by always only by 1 digit. And that's quite interesting. And then I realized later there was a common thread with all of these occasions, insofar as the people were asking him for the numbers instead of him just freely giving it. And so basically the message was, do not ask for these numbers because you will be misled. So this has to be a gift that comes karmically, evidently, for the people who really need the money. So that's that part of it. The other part, which is far more compelling, which has to do with the fact that death is an illusion, was his having contact with people who just passed. And as the Hindus say, they shed their mortal coil, so they go on. We in the West have the saying, you know, he gave up the ghost, meaning the physical body is real and the animating ghost is something else. So he gave up the ghost. So the ghost is not him. He is just the body and he's dead. You know, and that's just nonsense because it's just the opposite. It goes to show you how you know, we in the West have this horribly wrong. It's just completely convoluted to the truth of what really is happening here. So now there were 5 or 6 occasions where he spoke of the people who passed, and they gave him certain information in each occasion that was very unique to them, added up to the fact that these were the people who left, and he had no knowledge, I don't think, in any of these instances of the people involved.